Titans, Giants. What do you think, Mina?
I think two of those three teams do not make sense. The Giants are defensible for me. If you're taking a running back top 5, the first thing you have to do is obviously scout the running back. Is he worth it? I think we all agree Jeremiyah Love is, if not the most talented, one of the most talented players in the draft. The second thing you have to do is self-scout. You have to look at your own roster, because when you take this running back here, there's an opportunity cost. There's a chance to take a player at offensive tackle or edge rusher, and if that player hits, you are saving so much money. Jeremiyah Love's going to come in and have the most guaranteed money of any running back in the NFL, not the draft, right? So you have to look at your roster and say, okay, do we like our feel at these positions? Are we comfortable? And then you have to look at your offensive line. You do not want to draft a running back high if your offensive line is not ready for that. The Las Vegas Raiders are the perfect case study for that disaster scenario with Ashton Genty. I do not think the Cardinals or the Titans are in position to just drop in a running back and let him go. The Giants, I can get there. I still think they need to add to the interior of their offensive line, but you got a number one receiver in Malik Neighbors. You have two good offensive tackles, so I feel a little bit better about that situation. Also, they have that second pick now at 10. That, to me, makes sense, RC.
Yeah, Mina is talking like a general manager, which I think she absolutely can be. She's talking about the money that goes into Jeremiyah Love. She's speaking about where your roster is set up in order to allow him to excel. My feeling on it is he shouldn't get out of the top 5 because he's the best player in this draft. He's going to give you immediate impact. If you're the New York Giants and now you have a pick at 10, you have the quarterback of the future in Jackson Dart already. You have Malik Neighbors, who is a surefire number 1. Do not talk yourself out of picking the best player in this draft at a position where he is valued. At number 5, we've seen what guys like Christian McCaffrey could be drafted in the top 10. We've seen what Bijan Robinson could be drafted in the top 10. We saw Saquon Barkley's early impact on the New York Giants as the number 2 overall pick. I feel like at some point we're making this too difficult. I do understand if you're the Arizona Cardinals that you have to make moves to make this team better holistically. If you're at number 4 and you're the Tennessee Titans and Arvell Reese isn't picked or David Bailey isn't picked and those guys are instant impact players at their position, I understand. But if you're the New York Giants and John Harbaugh and you're trying to build the team in the same mind frame that you built the Baltimore Ravens, you go draft the most dynamic human in this draft. There isn't a wide receiver that does what Jeremiyah Love does. There isn't a quarterback that's going to do what Jeremiyah Love does. And there isn't a tight end, even in Sadiq from Oregon, that's going to impact your locker room and your on-field success the way Jeremiyah Love does the minute he walks into the locker room. And to me, allowing him to get out of the top 5 or some team not trying to trade with Arizona to get into the top 5 to take him that feels like they're a player away would be a mistake.
I'm definitely of that mindset with RC as well. I completely agree with him. You're the New York Giants, you should take him. And you got Scatterboo coming back. Damn it, the combination of both of them could work for you along with Jackson Dart. And remember that when you're talking about Jeremiyah Love, they're not just talking about his running ability. They're talking about his size, his big quads, his long arms, and how he can catch out of the backfield as well. I mean, he can catch the ball. He is a dual threat. He ain't a player that can just run with the football. He can catch it too. So being that kind of dual threat out of the backfield, I think is incredibly important for what you want to do with the New York Giants, not to mention the fact that you want to protect Jackson Dart as much as you possibly can. We keep forgetting that the brother had about 5 concussions his rookie year. I mean, from preseason through the season, he had about five different times that he suffered a concussion. I'm looking at it along those lines, getting the ball out of his hands quickly to weapons like that is certainly something that's going to preserve him. I think you have to take that into consideration. And if he falls to the Giants, they absolutely should take him.
I'm going to put you guys on the spot really quick here. Do you think it's more likely a team in the top 5 that we laid out drafts Jeremiyah Love or someone trades up to get him? A Chiefs, a Cardinals is already there, but someone like that. What do you think?
Yeah. I think the biggest problem is teams. Oh, go ahead, Mina.
No, you go. All right. Well, I was gonna say is I think more likely a team sticks and picks. I think if a team trades up, it would be to take one of the pass rushers like an Arvell Reese or a David Bailey. I think it's more likely that one of those teams in the top 5 sticks and picks Jeremiyah Love like the Giants.
Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with that as well because if you're a team that's not in the top 5, you're weighing the exact same options that Mina is. You're looking at these top 5 teams and you're saying at 3 or 4, we don't expect him to be picked. And the New York Giants will now become the pick that you would have to try to work some deal with the Tennessee Titans in order to get ahead of them to make that pick. If Jeremiyah Love falls past the New York Giants in the same way I feel that if Arvell Reese were to fall past the New York Giants, I believe that's where the draft gets interesting, and we could see some teams starting to try to make a play to move up to that number 6 spot where the Cleveland Browns are to make a move on one of these dynamic players if they do slip early on in this draft.
I also think the reticence that people have historically had about running backs from time to time, obviously that wasn't applicable to a guy like Saquon Barkley and stuff like that, but for the most part, because of the reticence that people have had when it comes to running backs, do you want to be the team that moved up for him and then all of a sudden something happens, something like an injury or anything like that? I think that's some reticence that would hit an executive that would make them a bit reluctant to make that move up. It's one thing to grab him when he's there at your pick and you just grab him, but to sacrifice picks to move up to get him when you know at the running back spot anything could happen at any given moment is something that's going to make people a bit reticent to do that.
The team I was thinking about that I couldn't think was the Cowboys, another team that I thought maybe could be in the mix for a team that might want to trade up to get a talent like this in Jeremiyah Love. It all goes down tonight. We cannot wait for the NFL draft. Me and Ryan.
Story of the night. Where does Jeremiyah Love go? Could he go as high as number 3? How that impacts picks 3 through 5. Schrager, what are you hearing about where we could see Love go tonight?
Yeah, Jeremiyah Love is obviously in play for 3. We've discussed that at length with the Cardinals, but also 4, also 5 with the Giants, and then a trade-up team at 6. I don't think Cleveland would take him. And at the very last spot would be 7, Washington. I would be shocked if he even lasted that long. It's a confluence of a weird draft where there's not a ton of blue-chip players at defensive end or at offensive tackle or a quarterback other than Mendoza worthy of taking that high, and the quality of player. Jeremiyah Love is seen as a franchise-changing player. Who's going to get him? We will know later tonight, but I would say he does not last past the first hour.
There is no debate that Jeremiyah Love out of Notre Dame, a home run hitter every time he touches the ball, is potentially one of the best players. You can make a case, maybe a top 3 player on boards, but value is a different story here. So I want to bring in Dano. You believe that he's a top 3 pick. Why?
His tape and his attributes. And I think, Kev, I would tell you, I think one of the great mistakes that we see consistently by bad organizations in the NFL is they chase need and they chase value instead of chasing good players. Good organizations just consistently add good players and they figure out the value in the cap at some point down the road. I go back to 2023, I think, when I believe that the Colts took Anthony Richardson and the next pick was Devin Witherspoon. I think the Raiders took Tyree Wilson and the next pick was Bijan Robinson. In 2021, the Falcons took Kyle Pitts and the next pick was Jamar Chase. Just draft good football players. Stop being so consumed with chasing the value. And if you have to figure out how much they're going to cost you because they in 4 or 5 years have become so good, deal with that problem when you have to deal with that problem.
This feels like a draft, especially when you look at 12 to 15 best player available, right? Jordan, how do you view this? Because Dan is on that best player available for a team that needs a ton of talent.
Yeah, he's a home run hitter. I'm not denying that. I just think you put him on a roster without a quarterback, without an offensive identity, without weapons that really scare you outside of him, Jeremiyah Love, all the attention's there. I just feel like you're wasting that type of allocation of assets, 50+ million guaranteed. He'd be the highest paid running back in guaranteed total. Whereas a Giants, right, I like the fit better because you have Scadaboo, who's a nice complementary to that. You have Neighbors, who's a dynamic young guy. Jackson Dart. You're paying a lot still, but all the focus, you're going to maximize his value as a pass catcher, as a slasher, more so than Arizona, who I think he would just get all the focus and wouldn't have the same kind of production.
How do you view this, Garaz?
I mean, what Dano said would be true if there were no salary cap and if the rookie contracts weren't slotted so rigidly. The third pick is going to get the same contract no matter what position he plays. It's going to be 4 years and about $52.5 million, fully guaranteed. Right now, the most money guaranteed at signing for any running back was Saquon Barkley, $36 million. So that's a pretty big jump. You have to make sure you're managing your salary cap, and drafting a running back at third is going to make it more difficult to do that going forward. You're going to have to make tough choices at other positions. We've seen it over and over again. We've also seen successful teams find running back production much cheaper, much later in the draft. So that's why it doesn't make sense at 3. Now, if you take him at 3, you're paying him $13+ million a year. That's more than James Cook, who just led the league in rushing, makes in Buffalo. If you take him at 7 and you're the Washington Commanders, who were in the NFC Championship game not long ago, you're paying him $9 million a year, which is a lot more palatable when you talk about how to manage your cap and build your roster.
To what Schrager just said, he may not be available at 7. Dano, jump in.
The salary cap is the same number for every team. I do not believe every team should be looking at it the same way. If you're Arizona, you pray to God that you have to, at some point, deal with salary cap ramifications because you have become such a good team and you have to pay so many different people that you have to maneuver it around. You're not that. And so I will continue to go to the fact that if you're Arizona, the best thing for you is to add talent. And Jordan, the one thing I would say is I'm actually a person who thinks Arizona is way more talented than other people. Marv still going into his third year. I love Mike Wilson as the number 2 wide receiver there.
Yeah.
Trey McBride is an absolute superstar. So this isn't a barren cupboard when it comes to some of the perimeter talent. Need a better offensive line performance. But he would be another addition to a team that's got some really good young talent.
I would add that their salary cap situation is not so dire. Next year, they're going to have something like $150 million in cap space. And although they did pay Tyler Algiers money to come be a running back, it's not like they paid someone in the running back room that's going to be making a ton. That is, you can't escape that contract. I said this in the first hour. I'll say it again. Arizona's in a really unique place. They went and they hired Mike LaFleur. They could have hired Lou Anarumo. They could have hired another defensive coach like they had in Jonathan Gannon. They could have hired several different They hired Mike LaFleur because they liked watching the Rams and hated playing the Rams for all those years. And they hired Mike LaFleur because they hated playing against Kyle Shanahan and watching those Kyle Shanahan offenses run up and down the field on them. They are looking for a new brand refresh. And when you're talking about the Arizona Cardinals, you're talking about every Sunday being on the 7th crew on CBS, the 8th crew on Fox, playing in a 4 o'clock window. That very least, and it shouldn't really play a matter, I guess, Monty Ossenfort could look at his owner and say, we've got a guy if you draft Jeremiyah Love. In a different draft where there is a Myles Garrett or an Aiden Hutchinson sitting there,